Manpower Minister See Leng says tripartism in Singapore is a very unique yet true partnership, citing how workers' rights are met without the need for strikes. He was dispelling aspersions about the ruling party's ties with the labour movement made by Workers' Party MP Gerald Giam yesterday. This as MPs had heated exchanges over the topic again.
Always be chasing that tail.
In his closing speech, Senior Minister of State for Manpower, Koh Poh Koon, set aside some words for Workers' Party MP Gerald Giam.
Clearly, the Workers' Party is no longer a pro-worker party. Unions have long been a part of the WP's history. Somehow along the way, they lost the trust in the relationship with the unions. So now, Mr. Gerald Giam says, like a bit of a toxic ex-boyfriend, because I can't have a relationship with unions, no one else should have as well.
What we are calling for is a key reform to untether the NTUC from the PAP and free up unionists to be independent advocates for workers in Singapore. An independent NTUC will be a stronger voice for workers, as they will be better able to fight for workers' rights without fear or favour.
So actually I would like to ask Mr. Gerald Giam whether he has personal experience or data points or even anecdotes to suggest that actually today the symbiotic relationship between the PAP and NTUC has caused our unions or union leaders to face restrictions or not to be able to speak up without fear or favour. Because I would like to suggest that yesterday after your speech, I received so many feedback from many of our union leaders. And that's because whatever you say do not represent their experience on the ground.
In the current setup where the unions are, in what I feel, are subordinate to the PAP, the unions will only be able to push through their policies if their policies align with the PAP's priorities. They will not be able to override what the PAP wants to do. And can I ask the SMS whether he can cite any instance where the NTUC has taken a public position that's contrary to government policy in recent times?
The leader of the opposition rose to back him up.
I would be grateful if the Senior Minister of State can raise a single example of where an NTUC Secretary General or a Deputy Secretary General has spoken out against a 3G or 4G leader to defend the rights of workers. This comes to the heart of what people see and believe to be a conflict of interest. And when NTUC delegates are saying, Majula PAP, I think people are entitled to question, do you speak for the party first? Or do you speak for workers first?
I think it's important for Mr. Singh to realize the fact that we are even debating this legislative bill today is a proof point of how the tripartite relationship that PAP and NTUC has endured for the last 60 years or more that allow us to make this bill a possibility today. So just because the Workers' Party lost the relationship with worker unions long ago doesn't mean that because we can preserve a relationship for 60 years, there's something wrong with a symbiotic relationship.
MP Christopher D'Souza spoke about working with union leaders as equals to fill hotels during the pandemic.
Please do not seek to unravel a secret formula, a good formula that we have in Singapore, which is tripartism between the government, the employers, and the employees. And the only conclusion I can draw in my limited human mind is that Mr. Giam is making a political point, whereas in my humble priority, it is Singapore that remains the priority.
I know you keep talking about independence, independence, independence. Behind closed doors, the tripartite partners do not always agree. Heated discussions happen behind closed doors on many, many issues. The raising of retirement age, or even the upcoming workplace fairness legislation. The lack of open confrontation, your so-called being more independent, doesn't mean that our unions are weak. It shows that the power of positive collaboration in delivering results without disruption. So I hope that you do not judge NTUC or SNAF by what you think that the relationship between unions, employers, and the government should be. But look at the record, look at the outcomes. The positive outcomes that the tripartism has delivered for Singapore through the decades.